What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Final Fantasy IX on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I want to try and approach this video in a little bit of a different direction, because, let's face facts, FF9 is extremely good. This game is a masterpiece, because it has good writing, amazing art, and seriously, some of the best boss battles of any game ever made. I mean, just look at this guy. He's a giant tree monster that looks like he's partially a robot or something. That is so extremely cool down to its very core, but I have to realize that some people have never tried Final Fantasy ever. This is the first time they're ever seeing it, and so because of it, they're trying to be open-minded. They want to maybe check some videos before they buy it. You are the gamers that I want to speak to the most directly, because you're looking at this port and you're going, should I start with Final Fantasy IX, or will I not understand stuff? Well, let me say, this version of the game is spectacular, although it does have some strange glitches in it. Let's start off by talking about the story itself. Final Fantasy IX is a very unique setting. This is a world where we're starting to see the dawn of technology. People have things like electricity in their houses, but there's also magic. We see things like airships, but simultaneously, not every continent on the globe has actually been explored yet. So because of it, this is really a time period of fear and exploration. People are happy that there's this sort of good balance between power and scares. I mean, people want to be able to just live in peace, but there's still just monsters roaming the land, and unfortunately, a giant war is beginning to brew. The Kingdom Alexandria has suddenly managed to harness incredible might. They're now able to destroy entire cities that stand in their way. But why are they doing this? It's this mystery that's sort of at the center of Final Fantasy IX, and figuring it out is a huge part of why this game is so spectacular. But beyond this, what's really vital here is the battles themselves. You're going to be spending loads of hours in this game just grinding, leveling up, getting new abilities, and getting ready to fight that next boss, because you can't exactly stop a war and save the world if you're too weak to actually conquer what's in front of you. So let me just talk about that for a second. On the surface, Final Fantasy IX appears to be just your standard turn-based battles, where you're going into a fight, attacking some monsters, and eventually moving on to get some experience. That is not exactly the case though. One of the most interesting aspects of Final Fantasy IX is the leveling system, how you make yourself stronger over the course of this journey, which here is actually done through an interesting equip system, where basically every piece of gear has special abilities on it. Like you may find a staff that makes it where you can slowly learn to do better fire magic, or you could get something that makes it where you can automatically scream at the enemies and make them run away. Now, these abilities are all gotten through combat, so basically each of the items will have something special on it. Now, once you equip it, there is a special experience bar for the item itself. As you do battles, you get ability points, which slowly unlocks these things so you own them permanently instead of just when you're holding that particular item. It really makes it so there's two separate motivations for grinding. When you're trying to just fight enemies over and over again, you're doing this to get experience points so your characters themselves level up for more stats and more health, but you're also doing it because you want to try and learn all the abilities on every single item before you get new gear that you need to equip to learn those abilities. This actually brings me to some of the changes they've made in this version of it. There are now actually cheat codes within the game. This is something that I think is a little bit controversial because it does make it where, if you want, this game is ultra easy mode. Within the options menu, you can now turn on things to make it where you'll instantly learn any ability, instantly be max level, or even have things where you just automatically have $80 billion in gold. So if you want, you can instantly buy stuff without any of the trouble of actually having to accrue these funds. I'm not exactly a fan of stuff like this, but I understand that there are definitely people out there who would find this game too difficult to beat, but they still want to see the story. For those people, I understand this stuff, but I would heavily caution against ever using these things. If you're looking at this and going, okay, well maybe I turn them on just once, you should not do that. If you turn these things on, it basically leaves them on for the entire rest of the game. You'll be so strong that every single enemy can be easily destroyed, even if you're not trying to do that. There are actually other cheat codes as well that can let you modify the experience if you wish. There are things like 9999, which could be enabled, which makes it where every single time you touch an enemy, it does max damage. So you can really pretty much blow through every single battle in the entire game, including the optional super bosses. There's also safe travels. This will make it where you can actually walk around without getting into random fights. It's interesting to have this one specifically, and I did like it for some of the later dungeons when I'm just wandering around. I just want to try and check stuff out and find hidden items. It is useful not to get into another fight every 15 steps. Then there's the one that I personally love the most, triple speed. This is in the game and it basically lets you, well, of course, fast forward it. It lets you see the entire game 3 times faster. And since I've beaten Final Fantasy IX literally 25 times, I was able to fast forward through the parts that I wasn't as much of a fan of. There is certain spots of the game where the story slows down a bunch, and since I already know everything that's going to happen, I can fast forward through it. It's useful to be able to skip to that next cool boss fight that I personally enjoy. It's also nice to be able to turn on triple speed when I'm just trying to level up in a really big hurry. Now the final cheat code is the one that I really don't like at all, which is always full health in trance. This is like battle assistance, and basically it just makes it where you cannot be hurt, and every single time you do an attack, it's one of your super attacks. I guess that they put this in the game so in case you're like in a boss fight and you're getting your butt kicked, you can enable it to instantly just decimate the enemy. Now, in all this talk about battles and grinding, you've probably noticed that I'm talking a lot about leveling up, about the progression system, because this is a major element throughout the course of Final Fantasy IX. You are going to be spending many hours trying to level up and get as strong as you possibly can. And for this reason, I am very thankful that this is on Switch, because now you can do this stuff handheld. Technically, this game has existed in a handheld format beforehand, because I'm somebody who actually played a lot of Final Fantasy IX on my PSP and then later on my Vita, so I have tried this before in handheld, but it's definitely the best on Switch because the Switch screen is so large and it's nice to just be able to take this on the go. I'll also say that it runs very well in handheld mode. Everything is super crisp, and sometimes I just put my headphones on and kind of just enjoy the ambience of the world while I'm trying to do a side quest. By far one of my favorite aspects of FF9 over the rest of the series is that it has a ton of side quests. There are seriously all sorts of different activities you can do that are very deep. There are things like these chocobo gardens where you need to do treasure hunts to try and find some of the absolute greatest weapons and armor in the entire universe. Stuff that can just make it where you can finally conquer every single foe just so perfectly. And there's also stuff like a very deep and very complex card game that is extremely fun to learn. I put so many hours into Tetramaster trying to get every single card, every single collectible, and just try and decimate every single one of the secret opponents in the game. And the fact that I can just pick this up and play this anywhere now, it is superb in handheld. But I do want to say that this port isn't 100% flawless. There are some issues in this that are a little bit hard for me to look past. There are 3 in particular that I really want to talk about, which is 1, it seems like the music in this game is slightly glitched. So what I'm talking about is sometimes when you're wandering around, you'll notice that the music will restart when it's not supposed to. Almost every song in this game is about 4 minutes long, and all 4 minutes of it is a very deep piece. It is a really well-constructed audio masterpiece. It is music that's supposed to evoke so much emotion, but since you're going to be getting into battles every 15 or 20 seconds, a lot of times it will end up restarting these songs, so you really only get a chance to hear the beginning of a lot of these amazing legendary soundtrack pieces. And there's no way to disable this. It is a real glitch that is just unfortunately in this version of the game. I've also noticed some weird stuff, like there's a little bit of an issue with frame rate here and there. There's something where sometimes when you're trying to progress into certain areas, there will be a stuttering a couple times, and I'm not sure if this is just it trying to load something or if some part of the port just does not understand what's going on, and so everything begins to freeze up slightly. Now, my final issue with this game isn't so much a glitch as it is the price. This is by far the most expensive version of the game now. Unfortunately, this cost me $22 of my own money. I spent it, and I'm happy that I have it on the Switch, but it is weird that this is the most pricey version of it. I mean, if you're buying this on PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, it actually has all the same content, including all the codes, but those versions also has stuff like the achievements and trophies. In this version, the main aspect of it that's really appealing is, of course, the fact that it's handheld. I still just wish that it was cheaper so more people would be jumping on board. $22 for this RPG does seem like a tiny bit too much. Maybe make it $10 or even $15. Paying this much for it is a little bit of a letdown, but it's hard to deny the fact that it is worth it just to go on this really crazy, really awesome journey in 2019. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's go over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Final Fantasy IX on the Nintendo Switch a 9 out of 10. Let me end this video by saying a very special thank you to all of you. I realize that this video took a full week to make and that by now everybody else has already talked about it, but this game is very special to me. I love it very much and I wanted to try and approach the topic. So the fact that you actually clicked on this, despite the fact that I'm so behind schedule, it really means a lot to me. You guys are awesome. I love you so dang much. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.